meals, to chop them up, to replace a little bit of your mince, whether it's pork mince or veal mince or beef mince, and substitute it with some mushrooms, and then you still get all the beautiful meaty flavor because of the umami flavor of the mushrooms, and also you know, great texture and does not compromise on flavor. And also better for you because reduced meat intake is better for your heart and your body and your general health. So tonight we're going to cook Adrian's Nonna's meatball recipe. I hope you all got one of these and you're going to use it. He'll tell you a little story about how this recipe came to be. One thing we'd love you all to do to kickstart tonight's campaign that we're running on Instagram, if you can all share your experience by documenting your blended recipe tonight, head to Instagram to Australian mushroom growers. It looks like that, if you can see my screen. That's what it looks like. We encourage you all to blend, snap and share. So blend your recipe, snap the picture, tag Australian mushroom growers, use the hashtag Blenditarian recipe, and you guys and anyone else who does this can go into the running to win $10,000. So the more people we get to talk about and how good would that be, the more people are going to do it and hopefully use mushrooms in their meals. So I'm going to hand the knife over to you, Adrian. And go for it.
Thank you very much for joining me, and I hope by the end of today or the next hour or so we get to put together a lovely dinner and share it. And there's nothing more important, I think, is sharing food and friends, and you know, cooking is such a wonderful thing. People often ask me, what do I do when I go home? How do I relax? It's cooking. I've got 3 teenage boys. They eat like horses and gorillas. They look like gorillas and eat like horses, something like that. So I'm always cooking for them, and they love food, and I love cooking as well. And to me, to be able to share some of the tips and secrets that I have to cooking good, simple food is what it's all about. And the Blenditarian program, easy. I've been doing this for years. You know, when you take mincemeat, which is something we use a lot of. Mincemeat is actually quite a sustainable thing to eat, because we all have the eye fillet steaks, the sirloin steaks, all these lovely cuts, but all the leftover bits, the mince is actually a large part of it. And if you can actually use the mince, it actually makes sure we utilize the entire animal, which is really, really important. And for me, with mince, you can do anything with it. You can make it you can make it better than a filet mignon. In fact, I've made a mince filet mignon before, where I blended some mushrooms and some mince and wrapped it in bacon and cooked it like a steak. Delicious, lots of flavour in there. And the thing about mushrooms is it also adds moisture to the mince you're adding. It's something else that there's water in the mushrooms, and when you blend it with the actual mince, it actually gives water as well. But we've got to get started. So I'm hoping everyone has got a pot of water. So I've got the cameraman here. You can see I've got my pot of water. It's simmering away. I'll turn it up a little bit so I get some bubbles happening away there. I've got a pot here. This is a lovely pot, so I can make a sauce in it and I can fry and get stuff going as well. So they're the 2 items. The hot water I've got on my big gas jet, so it's going to have lots of heat and be able to simmer away. And this one's on quite a powerful jet as well. So when I turn it on, it'll be ready to go. I like to set everything up. For me, cooking is all about setting it up from the start. So as you come over here, you can see I've got my my onion and garlic. And come in there nice and close. You can see I've got my onion, garlic. I've got a bit of chili there. I've got this ingredient here, which is one of my favorites. It's called butter. It's what makes everything taste good. So we'll add some of that as well. I've got some stock, but if you haven't got stock, we could always turn the tap on and, you know, get some water. I've got some passata. You can use any passata if you want. And one of the things you can do as well is if you've got some old tomatoes, this time of year, there's lots of tomatoes around. They go a little bit squishy. When they go squishy, pop them in the freezer, and then when you get to make a beautiful sauce like this, they're ready to go. We also come over here, we've got this thing here. This is called a glass of wine. We know about that one, so that's always going to make me happy. We've got some olive oil, pepper. I've got some parsley that's already been washed. I've got a little bit of oregano from the garden here, some thyme, some chive, some basil as well. It's all nicely sitting there. And of course, mushrooms, button mushrooms. These are the hero today, and I'm going to show you how to use them. You can get them anywhere, and they're nice and tasty. And it's just a matter of, you know, chopping them up and blending them together. And then, of course, we've got some onions, some eggs, some breadcrumbs, and I've got some cheese, and I've got my mince here. pork and beef mince as well. Now you guys have got some, like I said, Remo pasta. I'm just using some fresh pasta here that I bought in the store. This is rigatoni. It'll all taste the same in the end. Your pasta will be delicious and so will mine. It doesn't really matter. But if you've got your pasta as well, one of the most important things that I want you to look at with the pasta is pick up the packet and have a look at it. All pasta has a cooking time on it, and that's really important because that helps you time the whole dish as it comes together. If it says 10 minutes, I always cook it for a little bit less, but that's a good idea. Well, a lot of people, when they get their pasta, they take it out of the packets and they put it into the into containers. So you never know how long it takes to cook. You can always check it, but having that time at the start helps you be a lot more accurate about it. So that's the start of it, and we're going to get started cooking now. Is everyone ready to go now? They've got everything in ingredients. If you give me a thumbs up, we can get going. All right, I've got thumbs up all over the place. Are there any questions to start with? Put your hand up if you've got a question.
I don't have a question, but maybe do you want to kick off by letting everyone know the inspiration behind this delicious Nonna's?
Oh, we're going to get to that one.
Oh, cool. All right.
I wanted to hold off for that one because if I start talking about my Nonna, it'll bring a tear to my eye.
Yeah.
It's a very warm, fuzzy feeling for me. I grew up in a very Italian family. I know I don't look like it, but my Nonna, I spent a lot of time in that kitchen. She brought me up, and a lot of the passion I have with my cooking is trying to bring that feeling, that warm, she was actually this ball, that warm, big hug into the kitchen. And to me, that's what cooking is about. So, I mean, pasta is something that I grew up eating. You can tell I sort of got a little bit rounded with that. But pasta is one of those special things. And when you make pasta at home for people, I think it's that lovely, lovely, warm, fuzzy feeling. And you can imagine me sitting on my Nonna's lap in the kitchen. She would put the flour out, and then we'd crack the eggs in there, a little bit of salt and some olive oil, and then we'd put my finger in there to break it, mix up the eggs, and then we'd make the pasta. And then, of course, by the time I got to the age of 19, she said, "Adrian, you're getting a little bit heavy. Time to get off my knee. You want to sit down." But she was such a beautiful woman, and that's, for me, when making a pasta dish like this is so simple. She would use mince all the time, and she would blend it with mushrooms and other things, flavors, and that's what gives it such a lovely flavor. And then the sauce is really important as well. Lots of herbs and a few other ingredients, and that's, when I smell this, it brings me back home. Makes me feel like I'm young again. So there you go. There's a couple of good reasons for doing it. So is that, do you sort of, I've held off my tears. I don't know if you can tell. It's just, there's a little one just trickling here. So if that comes out, you'll know it's I've got that feeling, that warm fuzzy feeling. Now, I think to start with, what we want to do is make the sauce. That's what's going to carry the flavour, and that's what's going to bind it all together. So I think if we get the sauce going first before we do the blending, that's going to get it going really easily. And it's a simple thing. I've got my chopping board here. I've got a couple of cloves of garlic on here. I've got one white onion, and you know what? I think I'll use half it. If you feel like changing the recipe as we go along, and you want to put half an onion or a little less of something, that's up to you. I'm not going to get upset about it. It's all about what you're cooking because it's your kitchen. Now you can see I've got an onion here. And one of the most important things when you're cutting an onion is keeping your eyes on the onion. Whenever you're cutting it, if you keep your eyes on the thing you're cooking, you're not going to chop your fingers off. The amount of people that don't look at the onion when they're cooking, it's just amazing, and they end up cutting their fingers off. So make sure you do that. And you can see I've sliced the onion down to the middle. I just want to come in a bit. I'll show you how I do it. See, that's the core of it there, and that's the top of it. I put the onion down there on the board, and with the knife, I slice it all the way through here like that. Can you see that? There's some people still peeling the onions. Oh, that's it. You peel the outside of it, and then what I do is just cut it through the middle here like this, and then just carefully I slice it all the way down. So you get these lovely little fine pieces of onion that come through there. You're getting that? Look at that. That's how you do it. Now, I don't know if anyone's crying. Is anyone crying because of the onions? After all these years in the kitchen, I don't cry for onions anymore. They just don't do nothing for me. Now, once you've got your onions chopped like that, I like to cut the garlic. Now, the garlic you can do a couple of ways. I just put the knife on top of it and push down, and it crushes it. I find when you crush it like this, a lot of the oils come out of it, and it gives it a lovely flavour, and then I just chop it roughly. But if you want to, you can use the knife to gut the garlic nice and roughly like this, one little thing at a time. I'll turn that around so you can see me do it. There we go. How's that looking? Can I see people's onions on their chopping boards? Oh, look at that. Already done. That's nice. There we go. Oh, beautiful. Oh, we're rocking along now. That's really good. You guys are good. You guys all know how to cook. Lovely. All right. So we've got their onions. Now, if you've got some chili, you can pop some of that in as well. I want things a little bit spicy. So I've got this long red chili. I'll slice a bit of that in there. That's optional. If you're cooking for kids and you don't want them to eat it, then put lots of chili in it because they don't like the chili. But I've got some chili here and my pan over here. I'm going to turn it on. So onion, garlic, chili, all chopped and ready to go. My fry pan's on. Now we're just going to put a little bit of butter in here. Butter is one of my favorite things in the entire world. In it goes. And you'll see it start to melt down a little bit. This is a little tip that I have when you're cooking with onions and garlic. A lot of people have the pan and they have it on full blast. They pour the olive oil in there and then they throw the onions and garlic and it burns straight away. I like to do it so it's nice and low, so you stay in control. So the butter's still there and I put in the onion and the garlic. Now you're probably thinking, Richo, that's way too much butter. What are you doing with that? Well, you know, I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a doctor, I don't care how long you live, it's all about the flavour for me. And the butter just adds so much flavour. And if you look really closely, as this butter is melting here, you can see there's a little bit of steam coming up. It's actually all the fat and cholesterol that's in the butter is now rising into the atmosphere like steam and is going to repair the ozone layer. Did anyone believe that one? You like that one, don't you? Now, at this stage here, I've got it on full blast. I like to add a little bit of salt and pepper. So I always season as I go along. So it's starting to sizzle it a little bit. I put a pinch of salt in there. I put some pepper in there as well. And what we want to see is that sizzling of the onion and garlic. When it starts to sizzle away like that, what we're doing is softening the onions up. We're going to maybe caramelize them if we cook them too quickly. But what we want to do is soften them up so that it becomes translucent and we get that lovely sweet flavour. Onion and garlic is a very common thing with sauces and it's a common thing with cooking because when you cook it and soften it up, it becomes nice and sweet and that flavour goes all the way through it. Now at this stage here, if you've got your trusty wooden spoon, give it a little bit of a stir around like that and you can see it's coming, you know, just starting to sizzle away. And that's what we're looking for, that butter, that olive oil in there, a little bit of chili, some garlic. And if you've got some herbs, I don't know, you've got some basil there as well. I've got some thyme here. So at this stage here, I like to add some herbs as well. So I just grab the little pieces and throw them in like that. Lovely, everyone's keeping up. I'm watching you all on the camera. You're all slaving away in the kitchens. It's looking really good. Now, has anyone got any questions at this stage?
I do. Do I add all the basil?
Do you have to what?
Do I add all of the basil?
All of the basil. So you got fresh basil?
Yeah.
Oh, as much basil as you can. If you want to add plenty of basil. So this is where you can go really crazy. For me, fresh herbs are really, really important. That gives you a lovely, lovely flavour. So the more fresh herbs you put in it, the better. I've got some, I grow basil outside and you just grab handfuls of that and throw it in there. Basil's actually got a really nice story for me. My grandfather would grow basil all the time. And he would actually put the leaves of basil in his top pocket. So whenever I smell the basil, I think of my grandfather. So there you go. There's another little story there. So I just throw it in. And I find with herbs, there's a couple of ways of using it. I'll use them at the start like this. So I'll throw some basil and thyme in here at the start. And so I start to get that flavour blending in with the onions and the garlic and the olive oil and the butter. And you can see that's getting a lovely flavour. I do add some of the basil and the parsley and stuff at the end as well. So you add herbs at the beginning and at the end as well to give you that lovely fresh flavour. But you can smell already. Can you smell it in the kitchen? It's starting to smell really nice. The butter and the oil and the onions are giving it a lovely, sweet, succulent smell. Can you get that? Give me a thumbs up if you can smell that. Oh, beautiful. To me, when you're cooking, this is one of the most important things. If it's smelling really good from the beginning, it's a pretty good, you can't muck it up from here, can you? You can, but you know, you're in the right direction. Those smells, that's what gets you going. And that's what sort of that's what gets you excited about it. And for me, this is probably the best part of it, the onion and garlic and the basil in there. If you've got some oregano, dried oregano is good as well. But, you know, just keep throwing those herbs in there. And, you know, a little bit of stem doesn't matter as well. This is oregano when it's fresh. You know, you can use marjoram as well. If you've got some in your spice rack, you can throw that in there as well. And just put it in at the start so it becomes nice and flavoursome. Look at that. Everyone's running around the kitchen there. Lovely. Couple of basil, in it goes, and of course stir that around. Look at that, softening up and sweetening. What I'm looking for is the onions start to become slightly translucent. So this is what we call sweating them off. So they become nice and translucent. So that's where you get that sweetness out of it. Now, what stage are you guys at? Look at that. I'm loving that. Yep, all sweating off nicely. Do you give me a thumbs up if you're ready to move on to the next bit, which is adding the tomato and a little bit of, we got that? Thumbs up from everyone, good to go. All right, at this stage here, if you wanted to, you could add some cooking wine, you know, or you could just drink it from your glass, or you can add some stock or some water. What I want to do is actually thin it out a little bit because I don't want to have it really, really thick from the start. I want to have it a little bit thin at the beginning so it actually cooks down and thickens up. So I've got some stock here and I've also got some tomato passata. What tomato sauce have you guys got? Can you come and hold it up to the camera so I can see what you got? Oh, great, perfect. Yeah, that's great. That's great stuff. It's San Remo. Now, the trick with that is if you open it and you pour the sauce into the actual pan, I have the stock here and I pour it into the jar. So I pour half of that in there because I don't want to waste any of that tomato flavour. So I pour that into the jar, screw the lid on nice and tight. That's a little pro tip, screw the lid on before you shake it. There we go. Give it a bit of a shake like that. And then when you pour it out, you use up all of that tomato sauce. The tomato, there's none of it in there. All of it is in the pot. Really important. One of my pet hates is when you look at a tomato passata jar, and half the tomatoes left in there. So make sure you give it a bit of a shake like that. Now, I reckon that we've got, you know, I've got smaller jars than you guys, so I'm just going to pour that in there. So the whole lot goes in there. It's about 1 litre or so goes in there. And if you want to hold it back a bit, if you've got a small pot, you could always do a little bit less. So don't feel like you have to add all the ingredients in. So in it goes like that, a little bit of a shake like that, and in it goes. And we've got the sauce sizzling away. Now, what we want to do is bring the temperature up in the sauce so it starts to bubble away. Like that. And we can see this is nice and hot, this pan. So it's starting to bubble away. Beautiful sauce going on there. Give it a bit of a stir around. I like to give it a bit of a tap. And if you like to, you can pop the spoon on there. But when we do stuff on TV, we're not allowed to do that because apparently it doesn't look nice. So what I like to do is pop a little plate on the side here and get the spoon off. So there we go. With that sizzling away. Now, at this stage here, if you don't keep an eye on this, the sauce, it can burn on the bottom. So if your stove's really hot, if you've got an induction stove, they heat up really quickly. A good idea now is to see it's starting to bubble around the outside, so we know we're getting to that temperature fairly quickly. Just turn it down to about a medium heat, and that makes sure that it doesn't burn on the bottom. A lot of sugar in tomatoes, they burn really easily, so I turn it down to a medium, and I can see that it's bubbling away and going to be bang on. So has everyone got their liquids into the pan already, ready to go? Look, someone's still chopping. Is that someone chopping herbs? There we go. Oh, look at that sauce. Can I have a look at your sauces? Oh, this is the best part. Look at that, the spatula going around. Now, you can see just with your pan there, just keep in mind we're going to add some stock. So we're going to add some the meatballs to the actual sauce. So we're probably going to add about 1/2 kilo or so of meatballs to it. So make sure you got a little bit of room to be able to put those meatballs, because that's the most important part. That's the meat. That's the blended mushrooms with the meat. That's going to have a lot of flavour in it. So if you think you haven't got enough room in the pot, might be a good idea to change it over now so that you can get those little meatballs in there. Right. Oh, look at that. The great sauces. You can see my sauce bubbling away. Lots of basil in it. Give me a thumbs up if you're ready to keep going.
Richard, can you just check in with Andrea for me, please?
Andrea?
Andrea. Yep.
Oh, Andrea, are you there?
Hello.
Oh, Andrea.
Hello. Yes.
How you going, Andrea? Can you show me what you're doing?
Sure.
Give us a look at yours, Andrea.
Oops. I'm absolutely up to where you're up to.
Oh, great. Andrea, that looks great.
Sorry.
How does it
There
smell?
we go.
How does it? Andrea, does it smell really good? Give me a thumbs up if it smells great.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Now, another thing that I talk, when we're cooking in kitchen, one of the most important things is we're tasting as we go along. All right, it's really important. So I always have a handy spoon or a couple of spoons, and now's a good time to have a taste because, you know, is it seasoned right? Does it need, you know, a little bit extra? So I'll always, you know, just grab a little spoon, stir it around and have a little taste of it. Make sure you blow on it first so it doesn't burn your mouth. And I'll show you how you do it. Oh my God, that is incredible. That is probably one of the best sauces I've ever made. Lots of tomato in there, lots of basil in there. There's that hint of chili in there and the butter just smooths it all out. That's what it should taste like. Give me a thumbs up if your sauce tastes like that. Oh, I thought so, yep. Of course, it's my recipe. It's going to taste great. Now, that's going there. The sauce, turned it down to a simmer because I just want it to simmer away gently. The other thing you might notice is if you've had your pot of water going, boiling away, it might have reduced down. So at this stage here, if you think you need to add a little bit more water to your pot, what want to do is go to the tap here like this and fill it up with some water and just add it to the top if you've boiled it down a little bit. In it goes like that. Good to go. All right, moving on to the next bit. This is the most important thing. I'll move all this stuff out of the way here. And I have one of these magical kitchens that all of my mess, once I put it on the bench over here, it magically disappears. So I hope you've got one of those kitchens as well, because this is a fantastic one. Now, all you need to do now is make sure your board's nice and clean. Now, we've got our mushrooms, button mushrooms, that's all you need. Now, button mushrooms, easy to get, they're available everywhere. When you buy them from the supermarket, there's always a paper bag around it. Pop them in the paper bag and then in the fridge. And with mushrooms, it's always a good idea to buy them as fresh as you can. So you don't want to keep them around for a month or so. They don't last that long. But, you know, if you're going to make a mushroom dish, buy it on the day or the day before and they stay nice and fresh. If you wrap them in cling film for too long, they do sweat. So it's not the best way to keep them. But with mushrooms, regular mushrooms are all you need. Now, sometimes you might buy the mushrooms and there's a little bit of dirt on the outside. Just give them a brush off. But if there's a lot of dirt on there and you're worried about it, fill up a bowl of water, drop the mushrooms in, give them a bit of a wiggle around for 10 seconds or so, then lift them out and put them into a colander to drain off. And that's all you need to do to mushrooms to wash them off. So there's a little tip. Now the mushrooms, we're going to blend them with the meat. So I've got my meat here, I've got my pork and beef mince, and I've got my mushrooms. And I like blending the mushrooms. It gives it lovely flavour, those umami flavours, which is like that soy sauce flavour. It actually adds a meaty flavour to the meat. So it gives it a lovely flavour and also extends it as well, makes it a bit cheaper. But it's more about the flavour to me. That's the most important thing. Now, with the mushrooms, I've got, lovely knives here. So I just chop them, and it's a great way to improve your knife skills as well. So I try and chop them as fine as I can on the first roll through. And for this dish, I'm using about 20 to 30% mushrooms. And it's up to you. If you want to add more, you can. But about 20, 30% is about the right amount. If I was making a bolognese, you can go even further and add more mushrooms, 50, 60%. But, for meatballs like this, a blended meatball, this amount of mushrooms is about perfect. And slice them all the way through here. And then just grab the last ones. And if you've got a processor, you could probably hit them in the processor. But for me, I'm a chef. I use my knives, and that's what it's all about. And I've got lovely sharp knives. I spent hours sharpening these things. I'll pop this over here. Once you've got them on the board here, a couple of ways of doing it. You can just cut through like this and keep going back all the way through like this until the mushrooms become finer. You think it might take a while, but it's actually quite a quick thing to do once you start going. Another thing that we do is we've got the knife like this. If we hold our fingers here, we can use it like a little seesaw. We've got control over the knife, and it's just a matter of chopping all the way through. Great way of chopping mushrooms, great way of chopping herbs, and it also gives you great control. Instead of sort of like banging it around, it keeps the knife in control and stops you from damaging the blade as well. So it's just a matter of chopping it around, and then you just wipe the mushrooms off there and keep on chopping all the way through like this. And you can see it just takes a couple of minutes, and those mushrooms chop all the way down. And what you're looking for is sort of the consistency of the mince itself by the time you get to it. Now, it might take you 5 minutes or so, or a couple of minutes to do this, or if you're not good with the knife, It might take you 5 hours, but believe me, once you've done it a couple of times, you will improve on your knife skills and you'll keep chopping. So have you guys got the mushrooms on your board and slicing them up? Yeah. Some people peel the mushroom on the outside. I don't, but it's up to you if you want to do that. I find you get that lovely flavour and there's lots of vitamins and stuff in their skin as well. So I try and just chop them up like this. And as you're chopping them up, you can really smell the flavour of the mushrooms, and that's really important. Here we go. Wipe them off like that. Can I see you guys slicing the mushrooms? Should be nice and fine. Who can chop them the finest? That's what I'm looking for. There we go. Oh, that's good. Perfect. Yep. All right, chop them up like that. Now, the other thing is I've just grabbed the handle here, just with my thumb and forefinger, and keep on working it through. And you just bring the outside in and keep chopping it. Now, you could use a process, as I said before, but for me, I'm a chef. This is my tool of trade. So you just want to be able to, it looks good if you can actually use a knife to do the things that it's supposed to do, and chop away like this is what it's made to do. So, and once you get fast at it, you can start moving it around like this and going faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. There we go. Until you get all the mushrooms chopped up. And look, if there's a couple of chunky ones in there, it doesn't matter. It's going to taste even better with big chunks of mushrooms in there, but blended nice and small. This helps it to blend with the meat, and go all the way through it. There we go. I reckon I've got it. There's a couple of chunky bits in there. And look, it's about nearly 50% there, but I'm going to add a couple of extra ingredients to it. So once you've got your mince, pork, beef, veal, chicken, whatever mince you want, into the bowl it goes. I'm going to grab my mushrooms, put them on top here like this, and you can see they're going to go through beautifully. Now, there's a couple of chunky ones in there, and I've left them in there because I want a few of those chunks in there. But if you want to blend it properly, you want to get it as fine as you can. And I'll show you what I mean. You can see it's like about the consistency of mince, really important, and that allows it to go all the way through and mix evenly. Because how are you going with chopping the mushrooms? I'll come over here to the screen. Look at that. Give me a thumbs up if you've chopped your mushrooms. Oh, wow.
Hey, Adrian, how much meat do we use?
Look, that depends on you. Look, the recipes there is, I think you got 500 grams of pork and 500 grams of beef. If you want, you can just halve that if you want to make it a bit easier. If you think you're not going to get all that into your pot, you can halve it if you want. That's no big deal at all. Or you can make the mix and just cook half of it today and then pop it in the fridge, and tomorrow you can cook the rest of it if that works out for you. And you know what you do with the rest of that mix? I mean, if you only use half of it for the meatballs, tomorrow make some burgers out of it. They work up. They're beautiful. You got dinner for tomorrow. You can make burgers out of it, or you can wrap it in bacon and make filet mushroom mignon. Here we go. Beautiful. Everyone looks like they're rocking in their kitchens. I hope you've all got someone to come and help you clean up at the end. Is that possible? There we go. All right, mushrooms are in there. Now we need to add some herbs. I think we've got some parsley. And I'm just going to add the things that I like to put in here. I've got parsley, I've got some thyme. So I'll chop the parsley nice and fine. And what I do with it, I always make sure it's washed firstly, and then I scrunch it up into a little ball and use the knife to cut it nice and fine. You want it all to go through the mixture. So every mouthful that you take, it sort of tastes the same and it's all mixed through nicely. So chop it up nice and fine like that. Now, if you want to use dried herbs, that's okay. But for me, nothing beats fresh herbs. And fresh flat leaf parsley from the garden is one of the best things in the entire world. In it goes. Just pop that on the top there like that. And of course, a little bit of cheese on there. I've got some Parmesan cheese that I've grated. Now, when my grandfather was waiting for his pasta, my grandmother would put the pasta in the water. That's when he would grate the cheese. And it would be 10 minutes before that cheese went on the pasta. The freshly grated cheese is always the best to use. So in that goes as well. And then we've got some breadcrumbs as well. I've got some panko breadcrumbs. I put, if you want to put a lot in there and you want it nice and bready and fresh, you can do that, or you can leave just a little bit out. So it's up to you with that one. I'm going to put some garlic in there as well. So I've got a garlic clove here. I'll smash that all the way down and then chop it nice and fine. You can see a dish like this with a good sharp knife, you can just chop it all up and it's going to be delicious. It really picks up on your knife skills as well.
Sorry, can you just slow down a little bit now? I think we're just adding a lot of things.
Okay.
I'm a bit behind.
I'll go through it all and recap it. So I've got my mince in there and I've got my mushrooms And then we start to put the fresh herbs. If we've got some basil and parsley, you can put that in there as well. How's that? Good, thumbs up. And I've got some breadcrumbs in there as well. And some Parmesan cheese that's nice and freshly grated. There we go, beautiful. You guys want me to keep going with the next bit? Hold off for 5. Okay, while you're doing that, I'm just going to add some salt and pepper. I'll sneak it in. A nice amount of salt, because salt loves meat and meat loves salt, and salt loves mushrooms as well. So you need the salt to bring it all together. The salt brings out the flavour. So make sure you put a nice big pinch of that in there as well. Oh, you guys are lucky you've got the Parmesan already grated. I had to grate my Parmesan. I came in a big block. So you guys are cheating now.
I'm sure you grated yours quickly, Adrian, chef life.
I actually got someone else to grate it for me. Here goes some pepper. I'm using a pepper mill. I like to have a pepper mill around in the kitchen. It gives it a lovely fresh pepper mill flavour. Give it a bit of a twist. If you're using white pepper, that's cool as well. Black pepper, that's cool as well. In that goes. And then to bind it all together, I'm using an egg. You've got 2 eggs for your recipe, and that's the full recipe. I've cut back a little bit. But if you think, it's really dry, you can always add another egg. The beauty of the egg is it actually binds it all together. So when it cooks, it holds it together beautifully. So I'm just going to crack the egg on the side there. And a little tip with the egg, they say that if you crack the egg on a flat surface, you're not going to get any shell into it. I've tested it, and I reckon it works about 95% of the time, but it's up to you. In that goes breadcrumbs. I've got a little bit of soy sauce. About a tablespoon of that goes in there. If you like soy sauce, put a heap in. If you like chili, you can put a heap of that in as well. And I'm using a red onion. I love red onion, so I'm going to put some of that in. I'll slice that nice and fine so it mixes all the way through and blends together really well. So onion through like that. I'll slice it like this. Now, something I've seen people do, if they're scared about cutting onions, I've seen them use a cheese grater. It's going to kill your eyes and you're going to cry for hours, but yeah, you'll feel that. Yeah, that's another way of doing it. So in that goes. So onions in there, eggs in there, breadcrumbs go in there, salt's in there, peppers in there, herbs are in there. We're all ready to go. I think so, yeah. Hold on. I'm going to smell that and stir my pasta. Where's that spoon? Here we go. So my sauce is cooking away. It's nice and thick. And look at that basil going all the way through. I've got my pot of water going. I might even top that up. Your gas is pretty powerful up here in Brisbane. Yeah, thank you. It's, yeah, really powerful. You're close to the the gas pipes. The what? Okay. A lot of politicians. That's it. That's a good one. I like that. In goes the water. We know we're not far from that. A little bit of water in there. Now, that's the other thing. With your sauce, you might think it's getting really thick and bubbling and popping and making a mess. If it gets to that stage, you can turn it off. You can move the pan off the heat. You can add a little bit of cold water to it and stir that through like a quarter of a cup or half a cup, and that'll stop it from spitting and spraying everywhere. You can also put a lid on the top of the pot. And what I like to do is put the wooden spoon on it and then the lid on the side of it so it can still evaporate and reduce without popping everywhere and getting tomato sauce. There's a little pro tip for you. So is everyone at the stage now where they're ready to start mixing or blending their meat and their mushrooms and their spices and herbs? Give me a thumbs up if you're ready there. Oh, great. Some people have, some people have got together. This is the fun part. To me, this is the best bit of cooking. Getting your hands in here and mixing it together. For me, this is what it's about. You see chefs putting gloves on. You know, you're supposed to wash your hands from the start anyway, and I'm hoping you guys did that as well. But for me, mixing it around is the best way to do it. I find with my hands, I can get into all the little nooks and crannies in there and make sure it's blended up really well. And all the ingredients are evenly spread through the mixture here. And look at that, that's coming and looking great. You can see and smell. That's the most important. Have a smell of it and you'll smell all of those flavors in there. That's what's really, really important. Have you guys got this? you should be looking at a nice big bowl of mince with lots of lovely ingredients in it. And you'll see, like the mushrooms, if you chopped it really fine, you can't even see the mushrooms in there. You know, you can sort of get an idea that there might be some in there, but if you leave it chunky, you know that they're not in there. I've got a question.
Adrian, are we cooking now? I don't think we are we? So everything still looks quite red.
The sauce?
No, the meat, mince.
Yes. Have you got it mixed together in the bowl? All right. So once
I haven't yet put it into balls. Is that what we should have?
I don't know. I'm just starting now. So I've got the mix and I've mixed it all around with my hands, so it's all nice and gooey.
Yeah.
Andrea, so the next bit there is making the balls up. Are you guys ready to make the balls up now?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So once you've got your mix up, this is easy. There's a couple of things you could, if you want to, fry these off in a pan, but we're just going to drop them in the sauce. That's where all the action is. And what I do, you know, you can wash your hands and have them in water, but you know, you just grab them like this and roll them into balls. Now, that's about the size of a golf ball. That's going to cook nice, you know, in about 10, 15 minutes. If you want to make it smaller like this, we call it polpetti, you can do that as well. So whatever size you want, and it doesn't really matter, no one's going to know. So if you're looking for that golf ball sort of size, that's what you're looking for. And once you've got them, you can pop them on a plate if you want, or what I do is I just pop them straight in the sauce. Pop them straight into the sauce like that. So you roll the balls and pop them into the sauce, and then they start to cook. And when they cook in the pan like this with all that sauce, they soak up all the flavors. You can put them on a tray and roast them in the oven, or you can fry them in a pan. But for me, this is a much simpler way of doing it, and you get a much better flavor as well. And that's what it's all about. So is everyone really cool with that? So basically, you grab some balls like this, you know, and roll it around in your hands, and then pop it into the sauce just like that, and that will slowly cook. What happens is they start to set, and then we can start stirring it around. So it's as simple as that. Now, depending on the size of your pan or your pot, you might do all of the mixture and pop it into the pan, or you could roll these up, pop them into the fridge or the freezer and save them for another time if this is as much as you've got. I'm just going to roll these around till I've got them all into the pan here and watch them start to cook. They don't take very long at all, so that goes in there like that. There's everyone onto rolling them. I can see lots of people rolling them. Hold them up to the camera so I can see them. There we go. That's it. Bingo. We're all in the same. There we go. So some people like to, they pop them in the middle there and then just roll them flat like that so you get little balls. Now, I'm not going to judge you. If they're not perfectly round, I won't be judging you on that. It's all about the flavour. I reckon that's pretty good. In it goes like that. Now, you can imagine, you know, this is what I talk about cooking with kids. This is something you can get the kids to do and roll these up like this so it's nice and fun. Just make sure they wash their hands first. But, you know, rolling up like this, for me, when you've got kids cooking in the kitchen, we're always worried about feeding them properly. But I find that if they're cooking and they make stuff, they're more likely to eat it. You know, and that's one of the most important things. If kids are eating really well and eating food at home, they're going to have a nutritious, healthy diet, which is really important, isn't it? Apparently that's important. My doctor told me that anyway. How you guys rolling them up? Do you like this method, just throwing them straight in the pan like this? It's a lot easier, isn't it? You don't have to fry anything. You know, we're just using one pot to make the sauce and to do the meatballs at the same time. And can you smell all the ingredients coming together? The mushrooms, the garlic, the onions, the soy sauce, the fresh herbs. Give me a thumbs up if you're loving this bit. Here we go. Yeah, lots of thumbs up there. It's nice and squishy and gooey, isn't it? If you wanted to, you could use an ice cream scoop, but for me, this is the fun, just mixing it up with your hand like this and popping them in. And you know they're going to cook. You know they're going to be great. We've got a beautiful, tasty sauce. We've got lovely mince. We've got those mushrooms in there. A lot of ingredients in one dish. And it's just meatballs and pasta, isn't it? Here we go. Now, if you want to, it's also a good tip if you want to give your hands a little wash and have a glass of wine. Because this is hot, sweaty work, and that'll keep you hydrated and keep you nice and happy as well. So put your hand up if you're drinking wine. Yeah, I thought so. Now, what you're looking for here, and I've got a small pot here, so I'm not going to put all of it in, but what I'm doing is just spreading them out so they go all the way around. So I've got plenty of meatballs in there, and I'm just spreading them out. They're not piled up, but they're spread into the sauce. And what you'll find is, as you put the meatballs in there, the liquid comes up to the side, and that's what poaches them nice and gently. Oh, lovely. And in arrives another glass of wine. There we go. From my wine assistant, Liam. He's looking after me with the beverages here. So I'll pop that over here and give your hands a nice little wash. There we go. Is this
I think we all need a Liam in our kitchen, I think.
It's what?
We all need a Liam in the kitchen.
Yeah, yeah, not really. No, we all do, don't we, to help out with it. Liam has very graciously lent me his lovely kitchen to do this demonstration. I'm up here in Brisbane with our new restaurant boss, which is in Brisbane. So I've been up here working, getting that kitchen up and running and all the food. And Liam has been very generous in letting us use his kitchen and put it all together. And he's got a beautiful kitchen. He's got all the equipment you need. And this is one of those magical kitchens where everything is washed and clean for you. So it's an amazing thing. Now, if you come in here closer, Rex, this is you can see, I'll just give it a wiggle around, and you can see the meatballs down in the bottom here. And I know that at this temperature, when they're bubbling away, 10, 15 minutes, the meatballs will be cooked all the way through. And of course, we'll pull one of them out and have a little taste of it to make sure it's cooked all the way through. And that's all you need to do. So what you want to do now, if you get a chance, if you've all made the meatballs, oh, great. So you're all making up the meatballs. Once you've got the meatballs into the sauce, you can see it's bubbling away like that. It's a good idea to actually take a minute and we'll tidy everything up so we're all nice and clean. So we're ready for the next stage. You ready for that?
I think we might still have some meatballs getting finalised and then heading into the sauce. So I think we'll just give a bit of a time just to get some cooking.
If you want to, I mean, once you've got all the meatballs in, what we might do before we clean, we might just pop the pasta in, because your pasta is going to take about 8 to 10 minutes. And I reckon by the time all the meatballs are in, if we pop the pasta in straight away, then we'll be able to have it all tidied up and ready to finish it off. But one important thing is, once you have made the meatballs, give your hands a really good wash. Make sure there's no meat or anything on them. It's safe, but we just want to make sure we're really hygienically clean. Apparently that's really important. So look at that. For me, this is what it's about. I've got that lovely bit of oil on the top there. That's really important because the oil and the fat from the butter, that gives it lots of flavour. That carries the flavour all the way through it. You don't ever want to take that off. That's really, really important. So I love that look, and that, to me, that's going to be a great sauce. I can smell it as well. So I'll have a little taste of the sauce on the side here. That's fantastic. I've got my wooden spoon over here, and you can see I'll just pull up one of the balls. You know, lots of sauce ingredients around it, and you can see it's firming up as well. Bang on. That egg's doing its work. It's holding it all together and looking fantastic. So how are you guys looking there? Can I have a look at some of your kitchens and your pots and your sauces? I want to see some meatballs bubbling away in a pan. Fantastic. Look at that. Taneale, that looks fantastic. Cindy, you're still rolling the balls?
Thanks,
Can you hold one of the balls up for me? There we go. Look at that. Oh, fantastic. You're rolling them all, and then you're going to pop them into the sauce, Cindy, are you? Nice. That's another great way of doing it. And if you've got too many, you can always pop them in the fridge or the freezer and pull them out any time they work. What about Elizabeth? Are you there, Elizabeth? I can't. Oh, that looks good. Where's Elizabeth? There we go. There we go. Lovely. Perfect. That looks great. You've rolled them out quickly. Oh my God, you've got more than me. Fantastic. Danielle, you've got, look at that. Just be careful stirring that one. You don't want to make it flow over the side there. Perfect. Oh, that looks great. Steph, where are you? Oh yeah, that looks great. And you're doing the chef thing with the spoon over the side of the pan. Yeah, bang on. Elizabeth, Daniel, where's Daniel? Oh, Danielle? That's it. Danielle, I can see yours. Great. You guys are all on track. Is everyone on track now? Give me a thumbs up if you're ready to go. All right. Check your water. It's boiling. Now, we know that the meatballs are in there. We know they're going to be ready in a few minutes. So now it's time to cook the pasta. You can see why I had the water on, because we're hungry now. We're looking at that. It smells great. We want to eat it. We want to get on with it. So the water's boiling. Now, this is what what I think. The water's boiling away. What I like to do is add some salt to it. And you're going to say, Richo, how much salt do you add? Well, you want it to taste like Port Phillip Bay, nice and salty, because pasta's quite bland. So if you salt the water, that helps to give it a lot of flavour as well. And we often use the water in the sauce sometimes to help make it nice and round it off and give it a lovely saucy sort of flavour. Now, I've salted the water. I'm using a fresh rigatoni, which takes about 2 to 3 minutes to cook. I want you to take your spaghetti out of the packet. You can bash it on the bench if you want and take it out of the packet and pour it into the pot. Now, one of the things when you're cooking with the pasta, and you can use the same spoon with the tomato sauce on it, you can do that. It just adds flavour to it. When you put the pasta into the water, you've got to stir it. You've got to stir it till it softens up and falls into the water. That first couple of minutes is really important with pasta, that you're stirring it, and that's what stops it sticking together. And I know someone's going to ask the question, should we put oil on the top of it? I never have. You know, it's all about stirring that pasta at the start that stops it from sticking. So that's one of the most important things. So if you've got your pasta in there, stirring it around like that at the beginning, it's really sort of stiff, but it doesn't take like more than a minute till it actually starts to soften up. And I like to keep an eye on it. Now, if you've got a kitchen timer, pop it on. You know, it says 8 minutes to cook. What I will do is set the timer for about 6 minutes. So it gives me 2 minutes of leeway to, you know, get a colander in the sink and get everything else ready. So I always use a timer when I'm cooking pasta. So that's a really handy tool to have. So that means you don't overcook it. You know, if you've got a timer there, you go out and answer the front door, the timer goes off and you won't miss the pasta. So once you've got it in there, has everyone got the pasta in the water and they're stirring it? There we go. I can see that in there. Now, one of the things that people will do, they put the pasta in the water and they'll pop a lid on it. If you do that, that's fine, but just be aware that when that water comes back up to the boil, it'll foam up and it'll blow all over the pot. So if you've got a lid on and you want it to come up to the boil quickly, that's fine, but stay with it. It's not the time to go and, you know, do something else. Stay with it until it comes back up to the boil and then keep stirring it, and you'll see that it starts to soften up. And look, I try and stir it every 30 seconds or a minute or so to stop it from sticking together. So that's, you guys have all got it in? Timers are set. I reckon we've got about 6 minutes to get it going. If you want to tidy up now, you can. Or if you want to do some herbs, I always like to add some fresh herbs. So I've put my pasta here. I've got lots of different fresh herbs here. I've got some chives, which I'm going to use. I'll just chop the chives into little tiny pieces here like this. I call them little buttons. And a little tip with the chives, I've washed them, but I keep the elastic band on them. I find it holds them all together. And when I want to store them, I just dampen a chucks or a kitchen towel or something and wrap them up and put them into the fridge. And that way the chives stay nice and fresh. So I've got some chives there. I've also got some parsley as well. So I'll get the parsley and chop it nice and fine. And, you know, my pasta's on there. I'll go over and stir it in a second, or you will because you're using dry pasta. I can see that my sauce and my meatballs are coming along nicely. You can give them a bit of a stir around. And if you're worried about them not being cooked, very simple thing to do. You can pick a meatball up like this, and with a good knife like that, I'm just going to, you know, test one to show you. Cut it in half, and you can see it's cooked all the way through. If I did that and it would still be raw in the middle, I know it's got another 2-3 minutes to cook. So there's something, if you're worried about it being not cooked all the way through, there's a great simple way of checking it, and it's done. I know that's ready to go. So I'm going to put my pasta in, and I'll be a couple of minutes ahead of you. So I'm using this lovely fresh rigatoni. You can buy this in most supermarkets. Beautiful, beautiful pasta. The thing I like about rigatoni is it's got these little ridges on the outside of it and the holes in the center. That helps to hold the sauce. That's one of the reasons they put that on the outside of it. Lovely fresh pasta. Into the water it goes. When you are putting your pasta in the water like this, be careful, because as you drop it in the water, some of that hot water will flip up and burn your hands. But I don't need to worry about that, because after so many years of working in the kitchen and being around hot pans and pots and hot water, I have no feeling in my hands anymore. So, but just in case you're worried, I still have feeling in my heart though. So just in case you're worried about that. But you can see I've dropped my pasta in there, and I just give it a gentle stir around. I don't want to bust it up. I just want to gently make sure that none of it sticks together while it comes up to the boil. And when you're using a short pasta like this, you're using penne and those other rigatoni and orecchiette, those sort of pasta, once it comes up to the boil, the water will help to move around those short pasta. But spaghetti and stuff, you really want to stay onto it and keep turning it around. How's everyone going? You there? Have you got time to tidy to clean up? Don't worry, someone else will clean that up. There we go. Spin that around. Has anyone had a taste of their meatball yet? I might just pull this out of here. A little meatball on the side there. I'll just break that one up. This is the best part of cooking because we get to taste everything while it's nice and fresh. That is the best meatball I've had in a long time. Nice and fluffy. It's got lots of moisture in it and a lot of flavour in it as well. I can taste the mushrooms, I can taste the pork and the veal, a little bit of garlic through there. And you know the Parmesan cheese blends with it as well. And it's just a matter of, I could just eat these meatballs on their own. The pasta's going to fill me up, so maybe I should just put the pasta aside and just maybe even put these meatballs on toast. That would be delicious as well. Really, really simple. Now, this pasta is going to take a couple of minutes. Now, taking the pasta out, you can do it a couple of different ways. Some of you might have one of those pots that have the strainer that you can pull it out, or some of you might have the scoop to bring it out. So whatever you want to do is up to you. Or you can put a colander in the sink and take your pot over and pour it into the sink. You can do that as well. Just be careful when you are pouring the water into the colander, it can actually come up and splash you again. So be really, really careful with boiling water. Really careful. But just a matter of turning that around. What I'm going to do is take out my pasta like this, out of the water. I know that's cooked because it's fresh pasta. I'm using what we call a spider. Pop it straight into the pot here like this. And I like to put the pasta into the actual pot so it starts to soak up all those juices as well and all that sauce. Really important to me. And then it's just a matter of taking it out nice and slowly like this. And when you do it, some of that water, which has the flavour of the pasta, it's well seasoned as well, is going into the actual sauce. So at every stage, I'm just adding more and more flavour, which is really, really important. So last couple of pieces in there, look at that. That's looking good. Now, if you want to, once you've strained your pasta, you might grab a large bowl and pop the pasta into the bowl if you want, and then pour the sauce on top of it. Whatever you want to do is up to you, but as long as you're nice and safe. It's really hot, so be very, very careful. Now, that's just a matter of mixing that around. In goes some fresh herbs. You're looking nice and lovely. In goes some salt as well, so we want to make it nice and tasty. And then just carefully, I'm using the back of the spoon. I just lift it up and move it around. Now, if you have a look over here, this is something else you'll see. If you do leave the water on, with that much starch in it, it starts to foam up. So a good idea, turn that off to stop it from boiling over. Look at that, looking great. Lots of pasta in there, lots of sauce. This is enough to feed an entire family, but I reckon it'll be just enough for me. So once I've got it to this stage, I let it cook around. Now, sometimes when you add the water to it, it can thin it out a little bit. So it's just a matter of just keeping it on the stove for a minute or so. It helps to reduce it. And also that pasta soaks up all that liquid as well. So I'm just going to bring this over here to my plate here. Pop the rigatoni, the meatballs, the pasta. I spread it out on a lovely plate here like this. And I'll make sure I've got plenty of the pasta. It'll go straight to the bottom. And those lovely meatballs on the top, the fresh herbs on there as well. It's looking great. Lots of sauce on there, lots of flavour. And that's what it's all about. I'll just grab this here. And to me, a little bit of cheese on top like that. Is that perfection? Put your hand up if you want to be in this kitchen with me. Yeah, I thought so, yeah. Give it a bit of a tap like that. Freshly grated Parmesan over the top. And I've got my lovely wine. I'll go over to a red wine here like this. And I'm going to sit here and look at all of you guys finishing off your pasta while I have a little taste of this. A lovely blended mushroom with all of those ingredients in there. Lots of flavour. It's not just mincemeat. It's got mushrooms in there and so much flavour, and that's what it's all about. Simple flavours in there that make it delicious. Some pasta on there, some sauce. And I want you to watch this up here. This is how you do it. Oh my God, that is the most delicious pasta dish with those meatballs I've ever had in my life. I think I should retire. I think I should give up now. This is the best dish I've ever cooked in my entire life. Well, today anyway. Tomorrow's another day.
The best mushroom and mince balls you've done today.
What's that?
The best mushroom and mince balls you've ever done today.
There you go.
They look good. They look good. How's everyone else doing? Are you nearly done? You all look like you've kept up the pace. It's quite impressive.
I mean, I don't want to toot our own horn, but ours is really good.
Ah, show us, Neil.
It's really good. I've just been taste testing there you go.
Oh,
Pasta
yummy.
now.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
That's good to sit all around. And the pasta will soak up that sauce as well, you know, beautifully. You'll have plenty of sauce on there as well. Spoon it around, pop it on a plate. Now, it's all about the plate up now, isn't it? You've got to make sure it goes onto that plate without splushing everywhere. You've got to grab the chefy tea towel and wipe down the sides of it. Drizzle some olive oil over the top of it.
I hope you guys are inspired to add some more mushrooms to your regular cooking repertoire, whether you're making burgers or more meatballs. There's so many recipes on the Blenditarian website. I know I've been adding a few extra mushrooms where I normally wouldn't have, and it's really like spiced up my meal in a non-spicy way, but just made, and also I feel better, not only because of having more mushrooms, but just having less meat intake. So I've definitely adapted that. And my kids have.
We have.
Sorry about that.
That's right. Did you roll some meatballs? What's your little, what's her name?
This is Camilla. She's making her school lunch now, so.
Oh, you can have some of these for tomorrow, Camilla.
Yeah. Maybe.
You'll be the most popular kid at school.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions for Adrian as well? I guess as you're finishing up your pasta and as the meatballs are being added to that. Any questions? As Dee said, it looks like you guys have all kept up the pace. It's been crazy. So hopefully they're all kind of coming together now. The pasta's finishing and you'll be able to enjoy a delicious dinner. And as Dee said, with the mushrooms in there, and it'll be interesting to see if you can kind of tell the difference or if you can see that difference in flavor with the umami coming through.
And also, can we Instagram or take photos of it? Because it's hard for me to see, but if we can Instagram it, then I can see what everyone's, and I might rate. I won't rate them. I'll just put it. I'll give you a thumbs up for it. But that'd be great if you can see. Then I can see what you're doing, because it's hard to smell or taste it. But if I see a beautiful plate up, that would score you some big points. What do you reckon?
Yeah, we'd love to see everyone just show your meal. So I'm going to take photos on my phone. Danielle, I'm starting with you because I can see that in shot. That looks good.
I'm going to take a photo. A little tip: use portrait mode.
Oh yeah, it's going to make it not. Oh, yeah.
Guys, I've got a whole thing set up, so there's going to be a beautiful photo with the placemats and everything after.
Oh, thank you. Date night.
Exactly.
Oh, I can see you waving goodbye, Andrea. Thank you for joining us and enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks so much, Adrian.
Thanks,
was
Adrian.
great.
It's great.
This was awesome. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much
Taneale.
to everyone for joining. And if you've got any questions after, feel free to email them through. Any things that you want us to ask Adrian, and we can do that for you as well. But enjoy your dinners.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, Danielle. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Can I just say something? Virtual events for the win.
They're so good.
Okay, we're still recording, so let's stop the recording.
Oh, now I don't remember where it is. There it is.